Welcome to today's deep dive. You clearly have a nose for fascinating subjects because you've sent us a whole pack of intel on hyenas.
And what a fascinating pack it is. These creatures really flip the script on a lot of assumptions we have about the natural world.
Okay, I'm ready to be surprised. To start us off, I was flipping through this article, and apparently there are four different species of hyenas alive today, not just the one we see on nature documentaries.
Exactly. It's not just your classic spotted hyena, though they're definitely the most well-known. We've also got brown hyenas, striped hyenas, and then there's the aardwolf.
Bird wolf, that's the one this Wikipedia article mentioned as being more dog-like. I'm picturing something sleek and, well, less hyena-like.
You're on the right track. They're descended from a whole ancient lineage of hyenas that were built for chasing down prey, not crunching bones. Millions of years ago, these dog-like hyenas were, so to speak, top dogs, even outnumbering other carnivores in some fossil records.
Hold on, rewind that clock for me. How do we go from these agile hunters to the bone-crushing powerhouses we picture today?
It's a classic tale of survival of the fittest, with a dash of climate change thrown in. Around 5 to 7 million years ago, the environment started changing. And at the same time, canids, wolves, dogs, their ancestors started migrating into Eurasia. Many of those dog-like hyenas just couldn't cut it in this new landscape. But the bone crushers, they found their niche.
So while other species were struggling, they were like, hold my termite mound, I've got this.
Exactly. They became the ultimate scavengers, able to make use of resources others couldn't touch. Those powerful jaws weren't just for show. In fact, studies suggest spotted hyenas might actually hunt and kill up to 95% of the food they consume.
Whoa, talk about a misconception. Here I was thinking they were just opportunistic scavengers, but they're out there competing with top predators.
It's a good reminder that things aren't always as they seem. This actually ties into the whole PR problem hyenas have. In folklore and mythology, they're often painted in a pretty negative light.
Yeah, the article touched on that, especially with striped hyenas in Middle Eastern stories. It's almost as if those stories amplify the misconceptions about them.
Absolutely. There's this belief that striped hyenas are actually jinns in disguise, which are shape-shifting spirits, often seen as mischievous or even malevolent. You can imagine how being associated with that kind of imagery wouldn't exactly make them the life of the party.
Not exactly winning any popularity contests. Speaking of off-putting, the article didn't hold back when describing how hyenas mark their territory. Forget urine, they use their anal glands.
It's quite a unique system. They have these large anal glands that empty into a pouch near their tail. They basically paste this secretion on things to mark their turf.
And the smell, let's just say I'm not adding that to my aromatherapy diffuser anytime soon.
You and me both. But while we might find it unpleasant, it's incredibly effective for sending a clear message about who's in charge.
So, territorial, smelly, but also surprisingly complex. The article highlighted that spotted hyenas live in these female-led clans, which really piqued my interest.
It's a fascinating social structure that really challenges our assumptions. Unlike many other mammal societies, spotted hyenas have females calling the shots. They're physically larger than males, and their dominance hierarchies dictate pretty much everything: who gets to eat first, who mates with whom, even how cubs are treated.
You're telling me there's a constant power struggle going on within these clans. That changes my whole perspective on hyena family life.
It's not exactly a walk in the park. There's constant jockeying for position, especially among the females, as their rank determines their access to resources and their overall success.
Wow, okay, I'm already questioning everything I thought I knew about hyenas. What's next on this wild ride?
Let's talk about that iconic hyena laugh, because it's just as complex and misunderstood as everything else about them. That laugh. It's certainly memorable, right? The spotted hyena in particular is known for that almost maniacal giggle. It's a complex sound, a mix of whoops and giggles that can carry for miles across the savannah.
I'll admit, I always thought of it as kind of creepy, like something out of a horror movie. But this article suggests the laugh is actually more about communication than intimidation.
Exactly. While it might sound unsettling to us, for hyenas, it's how they keep things running smoothly. They use those laughs to signal their location, maintain order within their clan, even to express excitement or aggression. It's like their own unique language.
So it's not just about scaring away a rival clan, it's their way of keeping things organized within the group. Fascinating. We've covered their incredible hunting skills, their social dynamics, but what about that bone-crushing bite force they're famous for? How strong are those jaws?
Their bite is legendary for a reason. Hyenas are true bone-crushing specialists. Spotted hyenas especially are pound for pound the strongest biters in the mammal world. Their jaws are designed to crack through even the toughest bones, which makes them incredibly efficient scavengers and formidable hunters.
It makes you wonder if those early dog-like hyenas were so successful. How did they end up being replaced by these bone-crushing powerhouses? Was it simply a matter of a stronger bite winning out?
It's a classic example of how a changing environment can reshape an entire species. Those dog-like hyenas thrived for millions of years, but the combination of a shifting climate and the arrival of those canids we talked about, their canine competition, tipped the scales.
So they were facing pressure on multiple fronts, a changing world, and new rivals on the scene.
Exactly. Many of the dog-like hyenas just couldn't adapt quickly enough, but the bone crushers were uniquely suited to this new world. They could exploit resources other animals couldn't, which gave them a significant edge.
It's amazing how seemingly unrelated events like a climate shift millions of years ago can have such a huge impact on the course of evolution. These bone-crushing hyenas are like a living testament to that change.
And it highlights the adaptability of these creatures. Despite those challenges, they not only survived, they thrived. They found their niche and became a vital part of their ecosystem.
It really makes you realize there's so much more to hyenas than meets the eye and ear in this case. From their incredible strength and hunting skills to those surprisingly sophisticated communication, they're full of surprises. But it feels like we keep circling back to this idea of misconceptions. What about their relationship with humans? How has that played into their less than stellar reputation?
That's a complex story that goes back centuries. Hyenas, especially spotted and striped hyenas, have been known to attack humans, though it's not as common as you might think. But those instances, combined with their scavenging habits and those unnerving calls, have solidified their place in folklore as symbols of greed, trickery, even evil.
It's fascinating how, in some cultures, hyena body parts are used in traditional medicine, even as they're feared as dangerous predators. It's almost a contradictory relationship, both revered and reviled.
It speaks to the complexity of our relationship with the natural world. Our perceptions are shaped by a blend of first-hand experiences, cultural narratives, and often a dose of fear of the unknown.
So how do we reconcile those perceptions with the scientific understanding of hyenas as complex, intelligent creatures? How do we bridge that gap?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's not just about hyenas. It's about countless other species we share this planet with.
It feels like this deep dive is about so much more than just hyenas. It's about challenging our assumptions, about understanding the interconnectedness of the natural world.
Absolutely. And it highlights the power of knowledge. The more we learn about the world around us, the better equipped we are to protect it for ourselves and for future generations.
We've covered a lot of ground here, from ancient hyena lineages to their complex social lives, their bone-crushing bite, and their enduring presence in human stories. But what happens when those stories start impacting their survival in the real world?
That's where things get really interesting and a little more urgent.
It feels like we keep circling back to this tension between the story we tell about hyenas and the reality of their existence. But where do those two worlds collide?
Unfortunately, they often collide in a way that threatens the very survival of these animals. Take the spotted hyena in Europe, for example. While climate change likely played a role in their disappearance, it was probably accelerated by human pressure hunting, habitat loss fueled by those negative perceptions we've been talking about.
So it's not just about a scary story or a cultural myth, it's about those stories having real-world consequences.
Exactly. We tend to focus on the immediate threat, a predator attack, for instance, but it's the less visible impacts, like habitat fragmentation, competition for resources driven by human expansion, that can have a much larger long-term effect on a species. And those are often driven by how we view and value or devalue a particular animal.
It makes you realize that we're all connected, doesn't it? From the ancient origins of these animals to their modern-day struggles, the story of the hyena is, in a way, a reflection of our own story.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of the natural world. We can't separate the fate of hyenas from our own actions, our choices, and the stories we continue to tell about them.
This deep dive started with a pile of articles and research, and somehow we've ended up contemplating the interconnectedness of an entire ecosystem.
It's a testament to the power of curiosity, and a reminder that even seemingly familiar creatures like hyenas are full of surprises. We just need to be willing to dig a little deeper.
And challenge our assumptions along the way. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of hyenas, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that hyenas are far more complex and fascinating than their often negative reputation suggests. They're intelligent, adaptable creatures with rich social lives and a long history of coexisting with humans, for better or for worse. Their story is a reminder that the natural world is full of wonder if we're open to seeing it.
Absolutely. I know I'll never look at a hyena or listen to that laugh in the same way again. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me.
The pleasure was all mine. Until
Bye.
next time.